Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the TED in Your Head podcast. I am your host, Ted Moreno, certified hypnotherapist and high performance coach. The purpose of this podcast is to work on liberating ourselves, freeing ourselves from lack, scarcity, limitation, and lethargy, laziness, no energy. We want to free ourselves from these things so we can make the decision to intentionally pursue a powerful path of personal transformation. That's my gig. If that's something you're interested in, you can get in touch with me because there's a lot of different ways to have transformation in your life. How I help my clients is through the tool of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. So if you're interested in hypnosis or hypnotherapy and you want to talk and find out a little bit more, you can request a free complimentary consultation by going to, I'll tell you at the end of the podcast, tedmoreno.com/contact. All right, and I will repeat that at the end of today's show. But let's get into the topic of conversation today, the healing power of being in your body. Now, you might think to yourself, well, Ted, kind of can't be anyplace else but in my body, which is true. But what we're talking about is an awareness of being in the body. We can spend days, maybe even months, without the awareness of being in our body. Where are we? We're up in our head, thinking, planning, worrying, feeling anxious. So there's a healing power of being connected and feeling the body. Why am I doing this podcast today? Well, this morning on my walk, I was listening to a popular podcast called 10% Happier with Dan Harris. His guest was a guy named Dr. Peter A. Levine, who has spent the last 50 years developing something called somatic experiencing. I really encourage you to check out this podcast. The date of the podcast is September 5th, 2025. Again, the name of the podcast is 10% Happier with Dan Harris. So check out this podcast and check out the work of Peter Levine, especially if you have a history of trauma, chronic physical symptoms such as gut issues, or if you're interested in the current exploration of the body connection, the mind-body connection, as it relates to trauma and chronic pain. So in this podcast, Dr. Levine explains the basics of somatic experiencing and even how to do it. You can also learn more at somaticexperiencing.com. In short, somatic experiencing, or SE, is a body-oriented psychotherapy developed by Peter Levine that helps resolve trauma by focusing on physical sensations in the body to release stored stress in the nervous system. It uses techniques, including body awareness, through what's called bottom-up processing. Bottom-up processing. This builds the client's ability to stay present and feel safe within their body. So somatic experiencing can alleviate symptoms of PTSD, anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. So what does it mean to have a bottom-up approach? It means that it begins by addressing the physical sensations of trauma rather than the emotions or thoughts. So this helps to regulate the nervous system and prevent overwhelm. I've just purchased Peter Levine's book titled An Autobiography of Trauma because I find that helping clients to re-inhabit their bodies is a powerful way to release trauma and pain and anxiety from the body. Obviously, this is a really important topic to me and in my practice, and that's why I'm sharing this with you. I was initially introduced to Dr. Levine's work in my recent training at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute through the second year of the program, where I received a degree in mind-body psychology. Now, I want to be clear that as a hypnotherapist, I am not trained yet in somatic experiencing, which is a professional training program. However, I've come to see the incredible power of re-inhabiting or reoccupying the physical body in a very intentional way. There's a great source of wisdom and intelligence for each of us in our human bodies. If we can connect with and be present to our bodies, we can get information and guidance that can help us not only let go of emotional wounds, but guide us in our journey through life. As a modern society, we have become so disconnected from our bodies that we end up stuck in our heads. And I think a lot of you out there know what I'm talking about. Stuck up in our heads means relying solely on thinking and logic to navigate the challenges of life, trying to find answers, direction, and validation of our choices amid the clutter of our minds. Often we find ourselves in what some people call analysis paralysis, unable to make a decision, confused and unsure. However, the body knows and will try to tell us what we need to do, what's going on, and it'll tell us first as feelings, then as hunches or discomfort, but eventually as pain or even dis-ease. There is a reason we have phrases such as trust your gut or listen to your heart or the answers are within. We have a collective sense that there's an intuitive wisdom that comes along with the vehicle that carries us through life that we call our bodies. But often we resist this wisdom. The body is always talking to us, but often we don't hear. We don't want to hear it because we don't want to feel discomfort, unease, or the sense that something is not right. We would rather have someone tell us what to do, or tell us what pill to take, or read a book, or look it up on the internet. And when the message from our body gets too loud, like our body is saying, hey, this is not working for us. How about a headache or backache or stomach ache to get your attention? Then we might shut it down with medication or engage in any of a myriad of distractions from what our bodies are trying to tell us. It's possible that we can become so disconnected from our bodies that we end up repressing our feelings to the point where they come out as pain or discomfort. The mind and the body are not two separate things. What we have is a body-mind. Now, this used to be kind of a fringe idea, that belief that the mind and body are connected as part of the same process and have a profound influence on each other. The idea that trauma or chronic depression or long-standing anxiety can influence or even be the root of disease processes such as cancer is now an idea that is more and more rapidly becoming more mainstream through the work of people such as Peter Levine, Carolyn Mace, and Gabor Mate, to name just a few. We can learn to regulate our nervous systems through greater attention to the sensations of the body. This can be an effective way to reduce stress, anxiety, depression, chronic pain, and or trauma. So in the case of trauma, we have a tendency to think of trauma as completely psychological, but trauma is very much stored in the body. Now, even though I'm not trained in somatic experiencing, I can still work with my clients to help them feel and reconnect with their bodies. First and foremost, you should know the hypnotic state is a somatic experience. Somatic meaning in the body. While in hypnosis, people get a chance to slow down, calm the mental chatter, and allow the body to release tension, stress, and pressure. The hypnotic state is a venting state. Venting meaning release. Almost everyone at the end of their hypnotherapy session says that they feel better, more relaxed, and more emotionally calm. However, you don't need to be in hypnosis to connect with your body in a meaningful and powerful way. Yoga, for example, is another way, as well as any kind of mindful exercise or movement of the body. I say mindful because the idea here is to be rooted in the sensations of the body. In my hypnotherapy practice, even before we do the hypnosis part, I'll have my clients sit in a chair, close their eyes, and just focus on the breath. So, this is a fundamental way to connect with the body. Then I'll ask them, what are you feeling in your body? What are the sensations? I give them an opportunity to be present in their bodies and feel what they're feeling without being afraid or wanting to check out or distract themselves or engage in the story of why they're feeling this way. In other words, engage in some mental story. Now, this is going to be very hard for some people, but it does get easier with practice. For example, I was recently working with a woman who was having a lot of tension in her neck and shoulders. So we did what I call the body awareness exercise. I had her close her eyes, get into her body, and feel what was going on in her body. So as she allowed herself to feel the tension, I asked her if there was any accompanying emotion. She said that she became present to the feeling of worry. I asked her to maintain her attention on the feeling of worry, and through this exploration of the feelings in her body, she realized that she was worried about her husband wanting to stay married to her. Now, there was no reason at all for her to worry about this. They had a good, solid, loving marriage. However, she was able to identify this concern deep inside and let it go. The tension and pressure in her shoulders released as she released the worry that she didn't even knew that she had. Now, obviously, there's a lot more that can be said about this type of work, and I will continue to address this topic in the future. I just want to give you something to think about and an opportunity to listen to an expert, Peter Levine, guesting on a podcast. And I also want to add a recommendation. Take time to be in your body, slowly, mindfully, and with presence. Do breathing exercises, even just 5 minutes a day. Do some gentle stretching every day. Take mindful walks out in nature. Do yoga. Walk barefoot outside. Sit in the sun and feel what it feels like to have the sun shining on you. Dance. Hug your people and your pets a lot more. You won't regret the feeling of integration that comes from having a felt sense of being in your body, or I should say, a greater felt sense of being in your body. If that feels too hard or scary to do, and if you feel you need some support, you can reach out to me for a complimentary phone consultation by going to tedmoreno.com/contact. I'll leave you with a quote by Dr. Peter Levine. Trauma is perhaps the most avoided, ignored, belittled, denied, misunderstood, and untreated cause of human suffering. Thank you so much for listening. And just a reminder that you can watch this podcast on my YouTube channel at Ted A. Moreno, or read this as a blog post with clickable links at tedmoreno.com/blog. Take good care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.